Wallahi anim izi ayenum. Great peace, Yakoki. I want to be as frank as I can be when addressing this. Um, because like I've encountered like people who kind of like bring down um upstanding men. Like men who just fit the par, you know what I mean? Like who take care of their people. You know, they take care of, what it is that they have to take care of. You know, their children, their society, they have good habits. Um, Somalis coming at members of the NOI. Um, Somalis coming at the MSTA. I would admit that there are some flaws in like all movements. But like just going around just picking confrontation at, you know, what you would consider kafirs or infidels, um, you got to be easy on that approach because at the end of the day, we all want to see Africa rise. So in the moment of like doing that, like we can't be bringing down other Africans. You know, like we can't be bringing down people who want to see black people rise. So like you see the fella right here. He's challenging the brother Leo Muhammad on the Shahada of Elijah Muhammad, minister Louis Farrakhan. He's challenging them. And what I see is that the arguments that we challenge them with is kind of like it's foundless. And I notice like a lot of people who come over here from like third world countries, these heavily Muslim countries, these heavily Islamic countries, they charge at organizations that are put together in America, and rightfully so at times. They charge at them, and they say things like they're not preaching the correct Islam, they're not preaching the correct Hadith, they're not preaching the right alphabets, or however you said. They're not preaching the right word. So this is my correction to what is being said. And I don't want to be like long-winded on this. I just want to be like as cordial as possible because like we miss the word at times. We really miss it. Don't be so critical of another brother that you see that has risen up to understanding the mechanism of peace. Because like Somalis, they have a huge role in keeping peace among all Muslims. They have a huge role. I think the fight that we have here in America is alongside Somalis. I think it's a good fight. I think Somalis can help liberate a lot of African Americans, a lot of black people, a lot of Negroes, a lot of colors. I think they can help liberate us. But like what we need to do is just like instead of like criticizing what Minister Louis Farrakhan says, because he's up in age now, instead of criticizing him, we should be revealing to him what we really know. Because I notice like a lot of Somalis, they'll come at it from the approach of that we're novices. We don't really know Islam like they do. We only speak one language, sort of to say. There's no war that Somalis are really fighting in Africa besides starvation and hunger. There's really no war they're fighting. Like they have their own nation. Their women are supportive. They have families over there. They have culture. They have language. There's really no war they're fighting except starvation and hunger. In America, we're not only having to learn our old language systems, but we also have to fight hunger. We have to fight starvation. We have to fight genocide. We have to fight all of these certain things that's coming at us. Um, Somalis don't really have that issue as we do. Like they're not really fighting genocide. Um, so just be careful. Like when you see, like if you're in Chicago, because there's not many. I've never seen a Somali in Chicago. I've never seen like an Ethiopian in Chicago. If you're in Chicago and you're Somali, like go to Mars Marion. It's right there on 70th and something, Stony Island. Go over there and like get to know the brothers. You know what I mean? Like get to know the words that they're teaching out of the Quran. Get to know them. Mars Marion. Get to know them. Um, take a trip up from Minnesota. Take a trip up from London and like visit Chicago and understand like the word that they're preaching and like kind of give the word that you note of, because there's a lot of Muslims like who don't know what a date is. They've never eaten a date. They've never fasted. They've never fasted more than 30 days. Like a lot of Muslims that we see, like they're big, they're bulky. They don't fast. They don't take care of their temple. They don't drink a clean glass of water every day. Um, their form of Islam is completely different than what Islam was meant to be during its time. When you talk about the old times, it's completely different than what you see. There's no struggle for peace. There's no struggle for purity. There's no struggle for cleanliness. Like we have to be uh we can't cower down from a match. You know what I mean? Like we can't run away from um teaching, giving dawah, as they say, giving a good sermon. You know what I mean? Like we can't run away from that. It's good to preach out of the Bible. It's good to give dawah out of the hadith. Whether you're monoistic, monoistic, mono monotheistic, whether you're monotheistic or whether you're um Hanifi, or whether you're Abrahamic, whatever you may be. Like it's good to teach each of these lessons. Teach it. Like there's no shame in teaching it, because what you'll often find is that the words we use in Arabic, the words that we use in Somali, the words that we use in English, they all have commonality because they're all written in the Latin system. They're all recognized in the Latin system as far as not noun and pronunciation. Noun and pronunciation. You look at the language Somali. It's a whole chunk language. It's a whole chunk language. It's more so spiritual in a sense that it's native. It's native to that language. Is native to Minnesota. It's native to Wisconsin. Um, it uses a lot of X's in this language. So when we're trying to like get one to realize like who has the right approach to what is Islam, you know what I mean? It's our job to uphold their duty. You know what I mean? Like we have to make sure that we understand the language because we're teaching it. I look at the word Mahdi, and it means meditate, and it means teacher. That's what it means. So it's like when we're trying to teach these words and what they mean, we have to know what they mean. You notice like a lot of Mediterranean Arabs, they don't like the challenge. Somalis, they don't like the challenge. The NOI, they just like kind of like put their head down and just talk bad about them behind their back. Like, they're not practicing Muslims because they don't practice the word of peace. They don't practice the word of justice, because you can't be a backbiter and say that you're a humble servant. You can't be a backbiter. You can't be talking about people behind their back. If you're going to have to, if you're going to, like Elijah Muhammad did to Malcolm X, he disciplined them. If you're going to discipline somebody with a strict word, with a strict ruling, you have to make it public to your other brothers and sisters. And like, I was taught this heavily growing up in Chicago, because in Chicago, it was always a politic where you had gangs around and you had certain cultures. Like, the gangs will always shake up. The gangs, they will always stand around on corners. They would always, admonish each other with words. And if they got into a bickering, it always turned into a fight. You know what I mean? So like, you would see mostly like gangs that was in the same gang. Like, they would be fighting each other. It wouldn't be other gangs fighting each other gangs. That's from back in the 60s and 70s, where the gangs, like opposing gangs from like baseball clubs, was fighting each other. Nowadays, it's like people in the same gang, they fight each other. So that's where you're going to get the most violence. So when you see that certain culture, just be glad that it hasn't trickled over into the society of the general public. When you talk about Somalis having a great nation, they have a white 5-pointed star and a light blue flag. The children, when they see that over there, they take great pleasure to seeing that. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't necessarily rip down the flag that the NOI has and say that it's not your flag. Because I know a lot of them like to say that, like, that's not their flag. They have the crescent star with the red flag, the red background. You can't snatch it down and say it belongs to Turkey. You know what I mean? Because all of us come from a different walk of life. So again, when we're trying to make this like as very studious as possible, like, have pleasure in wanting from your brother and your sister what you would want for your own sister and brother. Great peace, Yakoki.